You're watching CBS News Minnesota.
Good morning. I'm Maria Lizignoli. It's 10 o'clock live in the WCCO newsroom. Thanks for joining us at the live desk. The Trump administration has justified its ongoing immigration crackdown in Minnesota by citing a need to curb fraud. This is after what authorities called the largest pandemic fraud case in the United States, where authorities say millions of dollars meant to feed hungry children were stolen. At the center of it, Amy Bach, the founder of Feeding Our Future. She is now convicted in the case, and only WCCO's Jonah Kaplan is speaking to her while she's behind bars. In the next few minutes, Jonah will be joining me live here at the live desk to discuss the conversation he had with Bach. But first, take a listen to their conversation.
We were allowed 1 hour to speak with Amy Bach over a video call from her Minnesota jail cell.
Now I can hear you, yes.
Until she was arrested in 2022, Bach led Feeding Our Future. The now infamous nonprofit signed up restaurants and caterers, many from Minnesota's large Somali community, to receive taxpayer money for providing meals to children in need.
During COVID, for obvious reasons, parents were allowed to come and pick up meals. So we suddenly were able to reach more children.
But prosecutors said it turned into something else, the nation's largest COVID-era fraud, with Bach as its mastermind.
Are you the mastermind of this scheme?
Absolutely not. I believe in accountability. If I had done this, I would have pled guilty. I wouldn't have gone to trial. I wouldn't have put my children and my family through what we've been through. I've lost everything.
While Bach's attorney provided this video showing stacks of food, prosecutors say Bach and the businesses she recruited stole tens of millions of federal dollars, spending it on luxury cars, real estate ventures, and vacations.
I wish I could go back and do things differently, stop things, catch things. At that point in time, I believed we were doing everything in our power to protect the program.
But in 2021, Bach sued the state agency that oversaw the meal program, alleging its scrutiny of Somali applicants was discriminatory.
How do you think state officials took that?
Nobody wants to be labeled as being racist.
Minnesota officials told a state watchdog the threat of legal consequences and negative media attention intimidated them into easing off.
The notion that a state government is paralyzed and has to allow this level of fraud because they were afraid of what I might do in a lawsuit is preposterous.
Help me welcome Amy Bach.
In Minnesota's large Somali community, one leader called her a modern-day Robin Hood.
The community deserves this. The children need this.
In 2019, the nonprofit submitted $3 million worth of meal claims. 2 years later, it submitted nearly $200 million.
All of a sudden, you're cutting $200 million worth of checks. How do you not see that as major red flags and keep this going?
We relied on the state. We told the state, this site is going to operate at this address, this day, this time, and this number of children. The state would then tell us that's approved.
Prosecutors also accused Bach of collecting bribes and kickbacks from meal site operators. At trial, they revealed text messages where she compared Feeding Our Future to the mob.
Are you a mob boss?
Absolutely not. No.
Were you personally benefiting from any of it?
I collected my salary, and that was all that was collected.
Didn't federal agents find gold jewelry, cash in your closet?
They found minimal jewelry. I believe it was like 2 pair of earrings, a bracelet, a watch. There was some cash there.
At trial, Bach took the stand, but the jury didn't buy her story. Within hours, they convicted her on all counts. Last month, a judge ordered her to forfeit more than $5 million in proceeds from the fraud.
Jonah Kaplan joining me now. Jonah, what a wild story, especially knowing it's right here in Minnesota. Amy Bach hasn't talked to anyone behind bars. So what was your reaction when she agreed to talk to you?
Look, we wanted it to happen,
right.
But I still kind of, to this day, think, why would she agree to it? What's in it for her?
Yeah.
She has sentencing coming up. I think this was a move by her and her legal team to try and, I don't know if sympathy is the right word, but they want to see some more leniency. She faces decades in prison, and I think she really wants to get her story out. If you think about everything that's happened with this whole investigation and what's transpired, the fraud, look at what the ramifications have been, not just in terms of the investigations into all these social services, but if not for the fraud, I mean, that's the reason the Trump administration is saying they're surging all of these resources. Now, we can have discussions about exactly how many of the arrests they're doing right now, how many of them are related to fraud. Hopefully it's more than zero, because that's what they're saying. But so far, we're not seeing that, at least on paper. But that's, I mean, this is everything. This is the reason there's so much focus on it. And we even asked her that question, you know, are you feeling guilt about what's happening? And I think you heard there is some regret in her tone.
Does she see folks, where is she being held right now?
She's being held in the Sherburne County Jail, which is the only jail, county facility, that has a contract with the federal government to house ICE detainees. So she sees them coming in.
Yes.
She is watching, and she also told us she's watching the news. She saw what happened to Renee Good. And so we asked her, I mean, do you feel blame for this? And she says, I could have never imagined, you know, this spiraling out of control like this.
She seemed, at least in your interview, regretful. How did she seem to you when you talked to her?
Well, she's certainly regretful at what has transpired, but she's not regretful in terms of what she did. There's not a lot of contrition in terms of, I was wrong to do this. I was wrong to come up with this scheme. I was wrong to take kickbacks. I was wrong to fraud the government. She doesn't think she did anything wrong. She thinks, I was just following the rules. I went to the state. I was the one that was stopping the fraud. I was the one asking questions, and the state said, no, 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 keep putting in your paperwork. Obviously, the jury didn't buy that.
Right.
And that's why and I said, you know, you could say all these things, but, you know, you're the one sitting behind bars right now, and you're the one that's facing decades in prison.
And so she really never directly answered you about whether she personally profited from, you know, the scheme, living this lavish lifestyle, allegedly. That's what prosecution is saying.
Well, it's not allegedly. She's been convicted.
True.
I mean, that's the thing. She said that she collected her salary and nothing more. I did challenge her because we know from search warrants that the FBI did find jewelry. They did find cash in her closet. She was driving a brand new Mercedes. Now, did she have as much of a lavish lifestyle as some of the other dozens of defendants in the scheme? No. She didn't take a trip to the Maldives. She didn't go on a shopping spree in the Emirates. She wasn't buying resort and real estate overseas.
And those are examples of what other defendants...
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So remember, this is a $250 million scheme.
Yes.
We know that federal prosecutors and a judge recently ordered her to pay back about $5 million.
What part of her account or her explanation surprised you in this interview? The most, I suppose.
Well, I do think what surprised me and I wanted to know was, well, how did you know, you're this person. I guess what surprised me, and I'm sorry, there's so much to process, right? It was like an hour.
Yeah.
What surprised me was this is a woman that, first of all, she's a mother. She's got two kids. She majored in education. I mean, this is a person who's devoted her life. She worked in early childhood education, and then she worked in nonprofits, so in daycares. She's around children. And I tried to find out, you know, did you just kind of lose your love of children? Did you lose your motivation?
Yeah.
And she said, no, everything was in it for the kids. And look, is it believable? I don't know. Again, the jury didn't buy it. Is it plausible? Maybe. I think what surprised me most was how much she continues to stick by her story, but also how she then claims that she's the scapegoat in all of this. And I just don't know how you could say you're the scapegoat when 90 other people have been charged.
And she's been coined as the mastermind of the scheme. So yes, 90 other people have been charged, many of them Somali Americans.
Most of them.
Most of them, except for Bach. She's a white woman.
Right.
How did she get connected with these other defendants?
It's a great question, and one that I definitely asked her. And she said first, you know, when she started Feeding Our Future, I mean, she was looking at some of the, I don't know if poor area is the right term, but you know, some of these marginalized areas, some of these low-income areas, and where a lot of immigrant communities live, especially maybe around Lake Street or on the north side, you know, Cedar River side, those were areas that were really hit hard by George Floyd as well, and the unrest there. So where are the places that need the most help? She got feedback to go to these neighborhoods.
I see.
And then I think once she started having success, and then COVID, she said a lot of people then reached out to her.
Okay. Kind of a ripple effect
Yes.
there,
And
perhaps.
look, in a community, it's not uncommon to say, well, you know, if I've earned the trust of this businesswoman, I'm going to tell my friends, especially those who are new to the United States, new to the community, not sure who to trust. Hey, let me give you a name. Here's Amy Bach.
Right. We know, we've talked about it, how this has impacted Minnesota's Somali American community. And, you know, while many of the defendants were from that community, obviously not all were, and it's made quite an impact, just this scheme alone.
Well, I think it's one of those kind of, you can't paint a whole community with a broad brush. It would be like blaming the entire Jewish community for Bernie Madoff, blaming Italian Americans for the mafia, blaming Asian Americans for COVID or some of those other conspiracy theories. And that is, I think, one of those things where you have to, important to contextualize and provide the perspective. Yes, most of the defendants in these fraud cases, for now, are Somali or East African descent. We know there are some Kenyan nationals in there. Most are. That does not mean that is the entire Somali community in Minnesota. We know there are many hardworking people, and so that is, of course, the accusation against the Trump administration that they are kind of enforcing collective punishment on the immigrant communities. And that's something I think voters are going to have to, you know, evaluate whether or not to hold their elected officials accountable for.
Precisely. Speaking of holding people accountable, elected officials, responses. Have we heard any from the governor or the Minnesota Department of Education, who Bach named in that lawsuit? Have they raised concerns about what Bach said in the interview?
We reached out to Governor Walz's office. We've, of course, been in touch with federal prosecutors, including the ones that still work for the U.S. Attorney's Office, because, again, you know, the people that prosecuted this case, a lot of them just resigned last week. So that's also kind of a wrinkle in this story we didn't expect before we were going to report on this. Look, I mean, they maintain, again, this went through the whole process. Jury heard her. She was on the stand, convicted her. I think for the state, yes, this does lead to more questions that they're going to always have to answer. What did they know? Who knew? And when did they know about it? What did they do about it? The state and Governor Walz consistently defending themselves, their actions, and pointing to the fact that it was ultimately staffers at the Minnesota Department of Education that shared their tips with the FBI.
Back early on.
Yeah, 2021.
2021. As we wrap this up, what, you know, specifically, I guess, talking about Amy Bach, what is next for her? You mentioned sentencing.
Sentencing. So she doesn't have a sentencing date on the calendar yet. There's always that post-trial investigation that prosecutors then make their own recommendation, and they are recommending, I mean, decades in prison, maybe more than 30 years.
Wow. And you've been covering it from the beginning. You'll continue covering it, I know. Thank you so much for your reporting.
Yeah, great to be here. And yes, we will be back, because nutrition, only one social service program. There's 14 under federal investigation.
Yeah, okay. Yes, we will be definitely back then. And stick with us here at the Live Desk. We're going to be back in a couple minutes after the break with more of your top headlines.
Now, from the WCCO Live Desk, you're watching CBS News Minnesota.
Welcome back to the Live Desk. While the court battle isn't over, the Department of Justice has now appealed a recent ruling to limit what tactics federal law enforcement can use against anti-ICE enforcement protests in Minneapolis. Now, you'll remember we told you last week the ruling said federal judges cannot arrest or use pepper spray on peaceful protesters. This comes during the ongoing demonstrations following 2 shootings in the city involving U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers in just the last 2 weeks. So far, the Department of Homeland Security says federal agents have now made 3,000 arrests in the Minneapolis area over the past several weeks. Stay home, stay offline, and stop spending for the day. That's the message local faith leaders, business owners, and community groups are calling on for you to do during a planned economic blackout later this week. Our Barrett Leone has the details.
All in response to Operation Metro Surge. That's the current federal immigration crackdown happening in our state. And activists, they're urging Minnesotans to stay home and stop spending money for a day. They say it's a day of mourning and action. And already dozens of business owners and restaurants have already signed up to shut their doors Friday in protest. Of course, this is all happening amid ongoing tensions here in the Twin Cities over immigration and customs enforcement as that continues across the state. Thousands of federal agents currently here. Activists are urging Minnesotans to take part. Signs around the Twin Cities read no work, no school, no shopping. Bar La Grassa, Ola Arepa, and Fragment coffee shops are among some of the businesses who've posted their plans online. We talked with Wedge Community Co-op in Minneapolis who plan to close both of those retail locations.
Extraordinary events require extraordinary action, and we really feel like with this statement and what is happening, it's important we stand in solidarity.
So in addition to that protest, we know that some people are also marching and rallying in downtown Minneapolis Friday afternoon. That is expected around 2 o'clock. Also, we know that Minneapolis Public Schools already doesn't have any classes as it is a teacher workday.
Now, we know there will be another press conference about this coming up today at 11:30. We'll be at that press conference and bring you updates later today on the stream. Today, tens of thousands of students will return to the state's largest university for the start of the spring semester. But the federal crackdown on immigration is creating some changes at the University of Minnesota. These changes are being made because of what's happening off campus. Thousands of federal agents remain active across the state, and we've seen citizens and non-citizens impacted. University leadership says it's focused on access, safety, and flexibility. The university believes these changes will maintain a safe, inclusive, and productive environment. So here's what's changing. Students will have the option to attend some classes virtually. Guidance on that will come from their dean's office. And nearly all buildings will require a badge access, which means carrying a U card is imperative. University leaders also want to make one thing clear, saying, quote, campus departments of public safety, including UMPD, do not enforce federal immigration laws, and our offices and officers do not inquire about an individual's immigration status. The Student Legal Service offers immigration legal counseling to students and encourages non-citizen students to carry their immigration documents with them at all times. We're told leadership will continue monitoring the situation. Well, here's a live look outside downtown Minneapolis, and it is so cold outside. It's 3 degrees, but it feels like -3. And this is actually warm for this week. Let's check in with next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames for a full look at this frigid forecast.
Hi, meteorologist Joseph Dames. Here we are on our Tuesday, a Tuesday that's still cold and a Tuesday where I just got an update. So let me tell you about it, all right? Here's our next 24 hours, a line that's going to go up and stay there. And that's a good sign because that means our overnight temperatures will be a little bit warmer than where we've been recently by about 20 degrees or so. It's not going to be a warm day, though, all right? We're going to go with about 13 degrees for that forecast high with a chance for some snow later tonight on the light side for the metro area. But if you're in southwest Minnesota and you're joining us, I hope you're having a good day. you could maybe pick up about 1 inch to 2 inches of snow. It's all going to come from this very quick moving, we call it an Alberta Clipper system. It forms in Alberta and then it comes sinking down through areas of the Great Plains, the Dakotas, into the upper Midwest. And that's where we are. And so that snow chance starts to increase, as I mentioned later today. I'll show you on our forecast weather models what occurs. Through the afternoon into evening, you can see that snow starts to move in, hits all the counties here, and it spreads up to about the 94 corridor. And then we'll see very light snow north of that and east of that. By the time we head into about 10, 11 p.m. tonight, there's probably going to be a coating on the ground. I have about a ½ inch in the forecast, more down to the southwest, about 1 inch or 2. And then blowing snow is possible as well as the wind starts to stir up a little bit. I think we start off Wednesday dry, but watch out for icy road conditions because it's still going to be quite cold out there. And just be careful for some slippery road conditions due to maybe some fresh snow on the ground. Okay, Wednesday's snow event's going to be also very quick moving, but it's going to be more direct for the metro area and points north. And it's also going to be more widespread, allowing for snow for just about everybody. So Duluth all the way down to Mankato. Highest snow totals, again, will probably be south and southwest with more consistent, steadier snow and maybe also some blowing snow that we have to be careful for. It's going to be our warmest day, topping off about 22 degrees. And right behind it, the cold air starts filtering in. And then we get to some very cold temperatures on Thursday, a high of 9. And by Thursday night, we're below 0. And then we stay there until Sunday, okay? And Friday is going to be a very, very cold day, all right? We already have a next possible alert on Thursday, a next weather alert on Friday, and the next possible alert on Saturday. Again, late Thursday all the way through Sunday, probably in the afternoon, will be below 0 with wind chills bottoming out about 40 to 45 below on Friday morning. All right, back to the sunshine on Sunday and Monday with a high of 13 degrees on Monday. You can get more updates at CBS News Minnesota. We'll see you there.
All right, Joseph, thanks. Now let's check in with our Mike Max for a look at what's coming up today in sports.
Good morning. The Minnesota Wild are on a roll again. They've won 2 straight. Last night it was interesting in Toronto. 6-3 the final. 5 goals from 2 different players. Victor Tarasenko with 2 and the Moose, Marcos Foligno, his most productive week in recent years. The hat trick last night. Tonight they're back at it against the Montreal Canadiens. The Gopher men's basketball team was at Ohio State trying to snap a 3-game losing skid. They try to play themselves back into some kind of contention so they could maybe take a shot in the NCAA tournament. But right now they're just going 1 game at a time.
You know, we really try to just stay focused on the teams that we're getting ready to prepare against. I think there's so much that goes on in the Big Ten, and more teams in it now than there were the past few years. So I think we just kind of focus on the team that we're playing against right now.
The Timberwolves are in action as well tonight against Utah, a game they should win. You're seeing some of the young players play some minutes, but usually only when it's a blowout, like Johan Berenger. Their #1 pick, he's just 19 years old. He's gotten some minutes, but he's been back and forth between Iowa and the big club. Head coach Chris Finch says there's a good reason for that.
You gotta play games, man. Like, there's no substitute for playing games. When you're 19 years old, in the prime of your kind of learning and early development career, like, you gotta play games. You know?
We're back at 6 and 10 on WCCO TV. For CBS News Minnesota, I'm Mike Max, and that is your morning look at sports.